Call the meeting to order.
Coffee?
Here.
Kelly?
Here.
McKinley? Desiree?
Yes.
Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It looks like we have one public comment tonight. Dan, would you like to step up?
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, camera that way.
I'm not used to that yet. How you doing? I'm not a politician. I'm Dan Calkins, and I came up tonight because I wanted to introduce myself to you. I'm the candidate for the Illinois House of Representatives. We have a Republican primary on March 20th, and I wanted to let you know that I'm interested. I'm up here. We've been knocking on doors here in Farmer City, and this isn't just a drive-by for me. I intend as your representative to hold public meetings, to hold forums, to be accessible. I want to be your representative. I don't want to just wave as I go to Champaign or Bloomington or some other place. So I don't know if you've seen my ads or you've heard about me. I'm a businessman. I'm not a politician. I pledge not to take a salary or any benefits because I think that this job, like your job, is a public service. I served 4 years on the Decatur City Council, so I have a feel for what you're going through, and I still kind of follow things in Decatur, and I had a chance to talk to Scott about some of the issues that you're facing, which are the same issues that we all face. And I think we need to get our hands on our government. We need to get people in Springfield that are going to do what we want them to do, not what happens when they get to Springfield and get under the thumb of a special interest group or a lobbyist. And for that reason, I'm not taking any money from any group that will lobby me in Springfield. I think that that's how things get corrupted, and I don't want to be under that influence. Some of my background, I served 22 years in the military. The last 25 years I ran a small business. I thought that was mine. I ran a small business taking care of developmentally disabled adults. My brother and I have an assisted living facility. So I have a good handle on what it takes to start a business in Illinois, what it takes to run a business in Illinois, what it takes to deal with this state. I understand the problems that small businesses have. I'm a trustee at Eastern Illinois University. I have been for 3 years. We've been through a terrible budget crisis. The state really messed over the higher education. We've, in the last 3 years, have right-sized our school. We've made very hard decisions. I've been very involved. We've got $40 million out of our budget in 3 years. We've laid off over 400 people. But we did it because we knew that in order for Eastern to survive, those hard decisions had to be made. I'm willing to make those decisions. I'm willing to go to Springfield for all of us and fight for what's right. I tell people, that Illinois doesn't have an income problem. I mean, it doesn't. We bring in $64 billion a year in revenue. We have a spending problem, and we have a priority problem. And I want to go to Springfield and help set the priorities. We should be taking care of the people that need to be taken care of, the disabled and the aged. We should be taking care of our roads. We should be taking care of our schools. We have a constitutional amendment in the state that says that our schools should be funded primarily through the state, not through property taxes. Well, unfortunately, that hasn't worked out so well. But there are ways to cut the budget. There are places to do it. There are things that we can do if we come together. I guess everybody's first question is, what are you going to do about Mike Madigan? And I hope you watch the news and you watch the stories. I heard a report today that Mike Madigan's approval rating amongst Democrats, disapproval, I'm sorry, the Democrats in this state and the union people in this state disapprove of Mike Madigan at like 58 to 64% disapproval. And these are his supporters. You can imagine how Republicans feel about him. I think it's in the 90s. In this poll, 3% of the people in this poll thought Mike Madigan was doing a good job. I mean, that's the whole state. So things are going to change. Things are going to change, and I think they'll change soon. We're also going to have 25 new state reps come into Springfield in January of next year. Democrats and Republicans. There could be more in the next 2 weeks after the primaries. I want to go to Springfield. I want to find people that we can work together on. I don't believe any House district is any different than our district. We all have the same problems. Our roads, our schools, our taxes, our property taxes. Every district in Illinois, I don't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat, face the same problems. And I think if you go to Springfield, represent your district, you're going to bring that consensus to Springfield. And I look forward to working with Democrats and Republicans to build a coalition to do the things that we know will turn the state around. Will help keep jobs, help bring jobs, lower our taxes, cut our spending, and get our house in order. And those are my priorities. Be happy to answer questions. I don't know if that's appropriate in your comments. I'm just here.
All right, well, thank you.
I appreciate you coming.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing all of you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Section 1 is going to be the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Call it.
Coffee,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
McKinley,
Yes.
Tesori,
Yes.
motion carries.
Section 2 is going to be unfinished business.
Okay, so at the last meeting, we were discussing electric rates. My notes of direction from you were to look at nonprofits, the number in town, and the percentage off the base, and also to compare commercial rates. So the first chart, the smaller one, the one-pager, is your nonprofits that we're aware of. I'm not saying that we might have missed one or two. They're either being charged a commercial rate or a demand rate, so $28.75 to $33.75. So if you took a 10% discount, it's $288 to $338, or 25% discount. You can pick any percentage discount that you want, to run the numbers. 25%, let's say the VFW would save about $86 a year. It's not much. I call it the loss of revenue, but it's also not-for-profit savings, however you want to look at it.
All these are non-for-profit?
Yes.
Okay.
Why is the Genealogical Society 0?
How many years ago? 2 or 3? Larry waived their base rate, so they're not charged.
Forever? Like
Yeah.
for life?
For his generation.
Since they did it moving forward, that doesn't mean it's going to continue, but we did waive their base rate. They are paying kilowatt, but not the base.
Gotcha.
Is there more than just them that
I
doesn't
don't
pay a
know.
base rate? That's
I
interesting.
don't know. It was something we uncovered today, actually.
Okay.
And then the other is commercial rates. These are IMEA numbers. I didn't get all of them to respond, but the easiest way to look at it is on the second page. What I did was I categorized them by lowest to highest. We're right in the middle on the base commercial rate. And then if you go by kilowatts, now this is a little less apples to apples because some are, first 50 kilowatts, others are the first 800 kilowatts. So it's really hard to kind of break that down, but this is just kilowatt period. So we're near the top, but again, that's for the first 800 kilowatts, where there are other cities that are lower per kilowatt, but it's only for the first 50 or first 125, and then it jumps. So I didn't do the whole, averaging every single one.
So really, we're pretty fair.
I think we're pretty average, yes.
Within an IMEA.
This is IMEA, yes, because we all buy our power wholesale from them. So it's a level playing field, yes.
So in order to change it, you have to get out of the IMEA.
Yeah, I don't think there is any getting out of. I think we're in like a 50-year agreement or something.
We don't want to get out of the IMEA.
No, it's actually cheaper to buy it wholesale right now than for us to produce it.
Yeah. Produce it, and the other thing too is if you have a major problem, i.e. ice storm this time of the year, you can get help. Come in here.
So the
And we're
cost-
still able to, I'm sorry.
The common complaint is that Ameren's cheaper. I'm saying we're not comparing to Ameren because we can't.
Well, I sent you a chart out.
I was gonna say,
I
do
think
you
it
have
was right
numbers for
before I
Ameren?
left.
Do you know what the numbers for
We're like
Ameren?
0.06 or 0.006 higher.
0.006.
It's
Nothing.
It was less than a penny.
It's less than a penny, yeah.
So, all right, I think it's been addressed then.
Okay.
But I don't know what you want to do, if anything, with the nonprofits.
I mean, for the most part, these were within a penny per kilowatt of the rest of the town.
Oh, commercial, yeah.
Did the not-for-profits ask for a discount, or did we?
No. No, we started talking about senior citizens, and then my notes were to look at not-for-profits. Well, genealogy, I should correct that, genealogy had asked for a discount, because they said they went to electric heat, and that's how we started down the nonprofit route.
And I
But
guess
it's
they did go-
only one, genealogy is the only one I've heard of.
they did go to electric heat. They put in an electric forced air furnace. So they got coil that heats and a little fan across it and everything.
Okay.
But they haven't been paying a base rate for several years.
Right. I would say that would be their discount, but that's just my opinion. I don't know. I don't think they need any more of a discount than $0. When everybody else is paying $20.75, I mean, pretty much.
I think, and I've talked to the president of it, I said, I think you need to review what you did down there and maybe start thinking about doing something different if you can afford to do that, because this is not going to be the best way for you to go overall. It's not going to get any better.
Well, I think they were trying to get around the dry heat so much with the electric.
That's what it was.
Well,
Trying to stop the mold that
Well,
blows up.
I'd look at a little bit different way to do that, but
Yeah.
The only other thing that was still outstanding from the last meeting was the senior citizen, as you'll recall. It was around 200 houses. That was my estimation based on the census. If we looked at 10% off kilowatt or base, obviously it was different. You had talked, I know you had mentioned the base,
Yeah.
which would be about $1.50 a month. A loss of revenue for us about $3,300 to $4,000 a year.
Yes.
Is the senior discount in conjunction with the income? So I'm sure there's some seniors that can afford to pay the rate.
No, I have not done that. I based it on 65 and older, kind of like the garbage.
Okay.
I don't know
there's
how you
ways they
would
can get
determine
money.
low income, that's the hard part.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how would you
They
even
can apply for
determine that?
especially during the winter and everything, if it does get down.
Yeah, but how do you determine that?
That's not us. They can go to the county or something.
Oh, well, yeah, there's LIHEAP and
Mhm.
I know churches
Places
and
we can
other
go to.
organizations
Right.
do offer assistance.
If we do this, is this something they need to apply for?
Which part?
Or just
Like a
the-
senior discount or the...
Yeah.
Well, I don't, senior citizen, it would probably be, yeah, you'd
Just-
have to apply for it to confirm that even, just doing 65 and older.
Right.
Nonprofit, I would say across the board, if you're a nonprofit. I mean, you'd have to have a 501c or 501c3,
Sure.
or church, I mean, that's, kind of obvious.
I'm not too sure the Legion's non-for-profit anymore.
I'm sorry?
The Legion's not a non-for-profit anymore.
Oh,
I think they dropped their status.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you'd have to like check on the 501c3 status and all that stuff, because some of these have let it go.
True.
I don't know.
I think so.
I think the ladies auxiliary dropped it, but I don't know.
No. There's only one. They might have dropped theirs. There's the Legion, the Auxiliary, the Sons, they all have their own 501c3s. And I heard the other night when I was up there at a special meeting, understand that they dropped it. And
Gotcha.
I kind of checked on it too, and I think they,
I'll find out.
I find out too.
And if you do that, then, yeah, we'd have to, I think Joe and I would have to determine how you qualify somebody, and then what percentage are you talking?
Yeah.
Not to be, sound cruel, because but I just don't know that you need to, because it's going to make a lot of work in here if we start doing that.
I just don't think there's that many, you know what I mean? If there's.
I don't know that it would save you anything.
Yeah.
It's not gonna save a ton of money, and there's just a handful of them, you know, it doesn't seem like it's ever been an issue. No one's ever come to us and said, like, we need a break or whatever, you know. I say, leave it alone for
At this
now,
point,
but that's my opinion.
I would say, if our rates were higher than other towns, then maybe we could do something like that, but we're really,
we're competitive.
we're competitive.
Or at least you've answered that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Anybody got anything else on this? Stop.
No.
Okay, we'll move on to section 3, new business.
Motion for discussion of the loading and unloading zone ordinance 998.
Second.
I scheduled this because we had discussed this loading zone, we adopted the loading zone, and then apparently there were some business owners that were upset that it was instituted. So I went ahead and sent letters to all of those business owners that we were going to talk about it again and decide, are we going to leave it or are we going to rescind it? So that's why it's on the agenda.
Can we explain it one more time? Like, explain
What the loading zone is?
Yeah. What does it entail? Like hours to hours?
You know, I didn't pull the original ordinance. I think I want to say it was 10 to 3, no parking. So that there's a loading and unloading, so that trucks can go back there and load and unload between those hours.
But in the street itself,
Just in the roadway.
In
no
service
parking
way.
in that roadway.
Right.
But not like behind the
It doesn't specify like off to the side or
Okay.
across the street.
well,
or-
okay,
Just
here's what we got into. I mean, I get attacked about this, and that I'm trying to hurt the business, and I'm not trying to hurt the guy's business in any way, and really, probably back there's not as much as there used to be, as far as the beer trucks go and everything, for one. They seem to get in and get out.
Right.
I'm not
They
there.
used to sit back there. That was the problem.
They
is that
would sit
hang
there.
out like in the bar with the bartender for like 45 minutes, and then I'd have to go into the bar, get the driver, and and like interrupt their social hour.
We have anything come in, we try to get it out, get it unloaded, and get them out of there. And with the beer truck, it was always kind of a problem because it does block the alley. And of course, it's a fire lane, so when they're in there, you can't get around and all that. I don't think it's so bad anymore. But also, the way the sign was placed, it looked like it was restricting parking in a private area, and that just
I think it's
But the other thing
definitely.
too is I don't think it was explained to them probably before the sign was put up. I think that's another part of the problem there too. So the sign got temporarily taken down until
Yeah, there is another one up there.
there is, yeah.
But it's up to you if you. Doesn't matter to me if you want to rescind it or
The issue
rescind it.
is for everybody that's not downtown, you don't see the trucks that come in and park on Main Street and unload and.
I would say the bigger concern, as far as I'm concerned, is Main Street, not necessarily Service Way, because Service Way used to be a problem, but it doesn't seem like they don't sit there anymore, and there's new owners of the bars and stuff, and they just don't hang out anymore. But I would say the biggest issue is definitely in the 200 block. We've got a semi at least twice a week stopping in one of those lanes, and 200 block is already tight, and like if you've got somebody with like a dually truck on one side of the road and a dually truck on the other side of the road, you're getting one vehicle down that road. And if you've got a semi, like the other day, the semi was like half. I mean, he was in one lane, but his tires were in the other lane as well. He's not parked all in that lane. So now on the 300 block, the beer trucks used to stop in front, but now they've been pulling on the side of Water Street and they cart around on the sidewalk, which has been awesome. And that has just recently changed in the past couple months. So Coca-Cola does it, Bud Light does it. None of them are parking up front anymore on 300 block. So if we could figure something like that out for the 200 block, or designate some section to where this is where they park between this hour, you know, because they're usually doing it between certain hours. I would say they're not here past 5, and, you know, maybe from like 9 to 5. I mean, it just doesn't seem like it would be impossible to park on green and to cart whatever you're doing to that business, just because it disrupts so much when they're parked in the middle of the road for, and it could be 40 minutes that they're parked in that 200 block, because he's unloading, he's taking a forklift off, and they have to open the door of the business, they have to unload all the stuff, and, you know, and it is what it is, but it's just that if it was a quick in and out thing, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but this is like twice a week, 40 minutes a time sometimes, and it's a nuisance, and it's a disruption for sure. So I don't know how to remedy it. I know that, you know,
I think we'd have to study it, because the concern is where the trucks come and go.
Right.
Because we're
There's
having
no
a lot of
alley for
issues
them
with.
Yeah, no, there's nothing in the
There's
back.
no
That's
alley.
the biggest concern. I
But
think.
what they'll do is they'll pull over to a side of the street where there's no cars parked, which today there wasn't when the truck came in. But there's other days it might be a
It's
little
full,
bit
I've seen them.
Right.
And it is an issue, and
Well, just the other day,
he's not there.
both sides of the street were,
Who's not there?
Jonathan Fields is where they're going. They're going to Fields Pet Care.
He's
But
not
the
there
other
today.
day, there was cars parked on both sides of the 200 block, and the truck couldn't get, so he just parked on the corner of Main and Green, and like just turned his truck, and it was just right by K&S, just like wrapping around the corner, and, you know, I don't know. There's just, I mean, a FedEx truck pulled a Yui in the middle of Main Street the other day. I mean, it's just, there's just, you know, I don't know what to do about it, but I mean, I look at Main Street all day long, every day, and I just see that there's traffic issues. We've got issues on the corners of Water. You can barely see from right to left. You know, if somebody's got a bigger truck on the corner of the 300 block right at Water Street, you can't see. I mean, it's hard to see around
We
it.
changed up the parking on there.
Yeah, why don't you restrict parking to one side of the street?
Well, I mean,
On Main
that's,
Street?
Sure.
I don't think you can do
No
that.
way.
No,
I mean,
No, that.
the 300 block's busy all day long. All, you know, both sides of the street are full, usually. So, I mean, I don't want to restrict any parking.
You
It's
could take
just,
one of those zones I was just talking about and just say from here to here at this time of the day, it's just going to be, and also too, you know, we know when we're getting stuff shipped into us and what time it's going to be there. They're pretty consistent, the shippers are, when they come in there. And that person can know when they're going to come there, and they can maybe set up for that, things can be cleared out, whatever, and they can come there and get things taken care of, so the wait isn't so long. There's ways to do this. I think you're right, it needs to be studied somewhat to figure out what to do. But, you know, for the one thing is, Main Street's not what it was 30 years ago or 20 years ago. It's not near as active. And, but if it ever came active again, it's going to become more of a problem. So let's say like Saturday. Great example. It's like, that's what it used to be. It used to be every day in this town, like it was on Saturday. And then that becomes a problem when you're unloading downtown and everything. And there's cars on the street. It's always been an issue. Like on our corner down there, corner of Main and Water, parking on both sides and everything. It's just like there's never a major wreck there. Somebody come flying off Main Street and turn that corner to go west on Water Street, and somebody would be coming up the other way, and there'd be cars parked on both sides, and you're flying around. I'm surprised there wasn't really a wreck, but that's always has been an issue with me. I thought, man, you know, but in the alley has always been an issue too, and people I've seen where your truck almost took out a telephone pole one day, one of those light poles. He just jumped his bed of that truck around, and I just couldn't believe it. We're lucky it didn't come down, but kind of got that moved. It took, I hate to say it took me being in public office to get that moved. You know, I came here one night, said that the alderman said, well, we got to get a hold of the owner and get his permission and everything. Well, you got his permission because I'm the owner. Well, he just turned around, he didn't know what to say. I shut him up. He was lost. He thought he was going to get me, but you know, you got the permission, just do it. So.
Well, we can look into this. What do you want to do about service way?
Abandon it. Forget it.
yeah, I mean, I don't see an issue. I mean, I don't know. It's become more it's a personal thing now. I mean, it's not. It was just,
It sounds like we need to get the business owners' input on the deal.
Well, I sent a letter to all of them telling them we're ready to discuss it, so I don't, is anybody business owner?
Maybe set a time limit on the amount of time the trucks can stay there.
Well, that's what it was.
That's what it was.
That's what it was.
It was 10 to 3.
It's only 80 minutes now, it's causing a problem. You said twice a week, get 40 minutes to stop.
But, you don't,
that's in the 200 block, and that's blocking Main Street. We're talking about Service Way, which is behind buildings on the 300 block. You're not blocking a main street. That's what I'm talking about. When I'm saying 40 minutes a time, 80 minutes is significant. I would say twice a week, Monday through Friday. That's a pretty significant amount of time that a truck is sitting there blocking the street. So I think it's an issue, and that's just my opinion. I don't see any issue with the Service Way right now.
when you live downtown, you get to see a lot more. It's different. I mean, you have to understand it becomes an issue. It really is an issue. It needs to be somewhat addressed, try to get it figured out.
Well, we'll bring back the rescinding at the next meeting then. The other one will take a little time.
That's fine.
I'll work with the chief and.
Make a motion to discuss regarding the Maurer Stutz Master Service Agreement.
Second.
Discussion?
I need a motion, but that's okay. Okay, so this is a very thick document. Joe and I think Steve with Maurer Stutz is here, he can attest. We went through it with a very fine-tooth comb. I think we drove them a little crazy. So I think we're both okay with it. I think Maurer Stutz is okay with it. So what it is kind of like an umbrella. Because they're going to be doing work in 2 different areas to start, on the disinfection of MPDES violations of the wastewater treatment plant, and then also the work we're going to do in TIP 2 at Water in Washington and Maple. And then we have, a lot of little percolating things, You'll see in my upcoming budget presentation some other work that we're going to try to get done. So this will allow us to pick up the phone and, get an engineer. This is not going to tie us into Maurer Stutz only like we were tied into Farnsworth. I still use Farnsworth on occasion, mostly because of their history and knowledge. I may branch out to others. It just allows us, it's a tool to, instead of trying to do all these little, whether it's a task order or, every time we want to talk to them, we got to do some, this kind of covers it all. So I don't know. Steve is here. I'm not going to waste a lot of time unless you have major questions. But we've gone through it pretty I literally line by line. So it was like 80 pages, and I read every
So basically, it's an agreement how they're going to work with us and how we're going to work with them.
Yeah. Yes.
What a novel idea.
Steve, do you have anything?
Sure, I'd come up and just introduce myself. I'm Steve Arrowhead. I am a business owner like the last fellow who addressed you. I have 3 partners. There's 4 of us that own Maurer Stutz. We're a long-time Peoria firm, going back to, actually we're probably the longest continuous firm that's changed names over the time. We got about 45 people in Peoria and Canton, Illinois. We do water, wastewater. That's one of our major service areas. Transportation. We have surveying, structural engineering, environmental engineering. I don't know, that would be our major groups. But I and my partners have owned it now since '09. The previous owners were Maurer Stutz, and we didn't change the name because there's a joke going around the Peoria area that they always change the names to protect the innocent, so we just kept the name. Myself personally, I'm actually was trained. I went to the University of Illinois. I got a bachelor's and a master's from the UI. I also have an MBA from there. I was actually schooled in structural engineering, but most of my career has been spent in water wastewater because that's when I got out of school in the 80s. That's what was going on. I mean, it was a tremendous amount of work. That work went through, and there's been a huge lull, and we're seeing it come back around now because these assets that communities have, your water system, your wastewater system, your treatment plants, they're old, not yours, I'm not saying,
Oh, no,
speaking of
mine's
yours,
old.
but they are old. But I'm talking about, it's endemic across our country. Our society, the American Society of Civil Engineers, every 4 or 5 years, we put together nationwide a report card. You may have heard of this, maybe not. And they go to Congress, and they give them the status of every piece of infrastructure in this country. And those are strategic things. You know, the interstate system was built to move military. That's what it was built for. You know, it's crumbling. So, anyway, that's our business is infrastructure. That's all we do, infrastructure. So, Bloomington Normal, we're working there. You know, we're based in Peoria. I would say our area is maybe north to I-80, south to 72, and right across the state.
They've done small towns like Creve Coeur.
Yeah, we have a lot of.
Yeah, you do.
We have a lot of
you don't
smaller
just do
clients.
big
We have a lot of
cities.
big clients, but we have a lot of smaller communities. So, very well versed in the challenges that you guys have. Whether
Lincoln, that's where I met them, was in Lincoln.
Mhm,
so.
yeah. I think Sue actually was working more with maybe our transpo guys.
Mhm.
Yeah, the master services agreement is to make it easier when things do come up. So we go through agreement one time instead of having to negotiate agreements every single time we do some little thing. You know, that's really it. We try to set it up with as many of our team partners as we can, but you know, some communities aren't for it, and that's fine. You know, we'll do whatever. We'll do what you guys would prefer to do. Right now, like Sue said, there's some things with your NPDES permit. That's the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. That's the thing for your wastewater. And we haven't heard back yet, have we, on our request? You know, we need to follow up on that. There's some dates and there's some things that the city is beholden to in there that we're trying to get them to, you know, stretch it out a little more and provide the opportunity for us to do it properly. Probably the hottest potato would be this disinfection improvements, which we don't have a signed agreement, but we've already been working on it. Okay, just disclosure, so we can get it going and get it done by the time that this date is in that thing. So you know, we took a little leap of faith, hoping that you know you guys would bring us on board. So that's about all I have. I don't want to take up a lot of your time. I know you got other ground to cover, but I'd be very happy to answer any questions.
I don't know what to ask you. But I just know that
You're very
I
welcome.
know we need a lot of help out there.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
This is discussion, because it was such a big document, you know, I figured we can approve it on the 19th. But as Steve said, they have already been doing work for us and we pay the bills. And so I'm not too worried in terms of, you know, waiting 2 weeks to vote on it. But
Sure.
just wanted to get it before you. Same thing, actually, if you don't mind, I'll just jump ahead to the other
Okay.
three, which is the task orders. We are under the gun with IEPA for these. There are not to exceed amounts in there. That was per my request rather than, you know, a specific amount, which can tend to be higher. Plus not to exceed then keeps them capped, you know, and then if they're looking to go above that, they're gonna have to have a pretty darn good reason, so. But these are, as I said, what he was referencing earlier is we gotta check with them is we asked for an extension when I came on board, and then we brought them on board. We've been operating under this new extension because we haven't heard from the IEPA, so we need to start getting this stuff done. To their credit, they have already started. We've had meetings. They actually went to Springfield and met with IEPA to get everybody back on the same page. So we're moving along, but these definitely need to move forward.
For you, a question. You're talking about the treatment of the water that has been treated that goes into the creek, is that correct? It has to be disinfected before it can be discharged in there
Yes, at certain times of the year.
at certain times of the year.
We also have issues with our outfall,
With our what?
our discharge, our
You have,
CSO.
you have a combined sewer system, which complicates things, and
Yeah.
And the regs on that they're tough, and that's something we're going to try and work through here. There's the CMOM thing. Not to cut you off, the CMOM thing that Sue's talking about. That is going to be a document that will lay out, working with you guys. I mean, we don't sit in a room all by ourselves and just smoke it up. You know, we'll probably be coming in and seeking input, but that document will lay out a tremendous amount of information and lay out a plan on how the city will systematically address the concerns of the EPA over an extended period of time.
But what did you say our sewer system was the first time you said?
Some communities have two sewer systems, one that handles stormwater and one that handles sewage.
They're mostly combined.
But a lot of east of the Mississippi, very, very, very many communities have combined sewer systems where they put one pipe in the ground and it deals with the stormwater and it mixes with the sewage water. You know, Chicago, you heard the deep tunnel. They have a deep tunnel project that was an effort on Chicago's part to deal with their CSO problem, which is a massive problem. Peoria, we are looking in Peoria, and I've been involved in Peoria since. This is how long these things go on. My boss, when I started at Randolph and Associates in '84, my boss, when he graduated Bradley University in '74, he started on the Peoria CSO project. '74, and we went through an iteration there. That was the state CSO. The federal government came out and said, look, you got to do something about CSOs. It goes to the states and it says, we're not going to tell you how to do it, you do it. So the states came up with their own plans. So the states spent a bunch of money, Peoria spent a bunch of money, tried to fix their CSO problem. Then in '94, the federal government comes along and goes, hey, you remember back in the '70s when we told you to fix your CSOs? Well, now we've got our version of it. And so now Peoria is dealing with the federal version of CSO regs, and they're looking at $300 million. $300 million. Yeah.
One of the combined problems with, or one of the problems with the combined system is that we, like the water we've had recently, you don't get the right bacteria count. Is that correct? Am I saying that? Because you got too much.
That's the disinfection thing.
I think you got too much water going into it. Now, I know, like I said, it's been going on for a long time. How do I want to ask this about? We have the combined system, and because of the water, we have so much water is the reason they want us to separate it out, because you don't get that bacterial count. Is that right? Like you want, you get. And let me ask you, and also too, this sewer plant is a pretty good size, so it could handle pretty good growth in this town, couldn't it?
It looks to have a big white spot in the line there. You've got some luxuries at your plant, in my estimation. There's a lot of smaller communities that don't have a big pond where you can shunt water off to and still treat. So there are some advantages. And one of the things that to keep in mind also, you know, when you talk about it, back in the day, it made sense. Just put one sewer in the ground. Why, just put one sewer there and just deal with it. And then, they started seeing problems with that, so they separate. Well, now stormwater is starting to come under the purview of pollution. It's polluted in a different way. Stormwater is. It's not clean. People think, oh, just let it run off in the creek. Well, it's got oil, sediment, and animal feces. I mean, it's polluted in a different way.
Well, there's also a cost of treating all that stormwater.
Sure.
Yep.
And so that's another reason why we're adding storm system more to the distribution of storm when we do the Water Washington Maple work.
Yeah.
Because that's actually going to serve two purposes. One, get all that water off of our system, but it's also going to help our MPDES permit, because they're looking at it as counting it towards our overflow, solving our overflow issues. So
how much relief will it be off the sewage system when we do that?
yeah,
Well,
not that much.
Not that much.
It's
Because you got the
on that particular project, I really couldn't say.
So we're looking at
But-
separating our systems.
Yeah.
Yes, we've already started on the far west side,
Right.
and we're going to add to that in this project this year, and then, over time, yes.
But the big problem is that there's no money available to separate the system.
No.
Right. These things, they cost a lot
Another
of...
unfunded mandate.
They want us, unfunded mandate, that's right, they want us to foot the bill.
It is, yes.
So anyway, we're on a clock with these, so I
Are they
don't
gonna
really
fine
have
us?
anything else except to get them approved and...
If we don't do this, they're going to fine us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're already behind. We're almost 2 years behind. And we
That-
keep asking to move the ball forward.
That's why when Sue had called us, the first thing we asked was to look at the NPDES permit. That kind of tells us what EPA thinks. And the dates in there were already passed. There was no way that you guys could comply to those dates. So we said, okay, well, if you were okay with it, we'll just go down, we'll meet with them face to face and you know, just kind of lay it out there and ask for some consideration. And they, you know, to their credit, it's the new friendlier face of EPA, I don't know. But so there are deadlines in there that you know, the city has to meet, and we're going to try the best that we can to make that happen for you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
So are you contemplating bringing all of these things
Yes.
back for action?
Yes.
Okay.
On the
2
19th, yes.
through 5
2
for
through
action.
5,
for action.
yes.
So, well, okay.
Yeah.
Just understand.
So do you have anything more on any more of these?
No?
Okay, section 4 will be other items, the city manager's report.
Just want to give you a quick update. So, went to DC. I did meet with Congressman Ronnie Davis, who represents Farmer City and other areas. We discussed several things. This was on behalf of municipal power, so it was for our power plant. I discussed with them a couple of things. One, there's a House Resolution 5003. Back when the tax bill was approved, taxes on municipal bonds were saved, but they eliminated our ability to advance refund. So back in December, we got it just under the wire, that $60,000 we saved with that refunding. They've taken that away now for the future. And so now, luckily, there's a resolution being introduced to bring that back. And so, of course, we definitely lobbied about that. I explained how it can save cities money. Also, we discussed pole attachments with the new 5G rollout. There's a big push among like AT&T, Verizon type companies. They want a bill to pass that allows them to attach their equipment to our municipal power poles that, you know, needs to remain under local jurisdiction. Work with us, get a franchise agreement, get some kind of agreement that we work together about where they go, how they go, what they look like, how big they are, etc. Because there's liability issues, there's, you know, what if we need to take it down, what if we need to work on the wires, I mean, there's just so many issues. And it was interesting because I met with Rodney Davis, we also met with Congressman LaHood, and even though he's not in our district, he's just above us, so, you know, we said the same things, that it was, they were surprised. This was something that hadn't come before them, but so it's a good thing. Now they know what's out there and how it affects municipalities. We also, for Farmer City, I discussed the infrastructure bill, DOT assistance or grants for whether it's I-74 property, whether it's for Depot Road and business, agribusiness. As you know, or maybe don't know, Rodney is on the agricultural committee. He's also big in agriculture, so I expressed how we have a lot of agribusinesses here. So they basically said, well, you know, they don't feel that the infrastructure bill is going to go anywhere this year, but, you know, if we need any help working with the Department of Transportation on potential funding, to let their office know. So I think it was a good couple of days. Learned, you know, about some new legislation that affects us, so we can keep track of it, as well as putting a real face to the congressman about how things that are going on in Washington affect us here at home. I want to reiterate, this was paid for by IMEA, not by the city. So we've been going, someone has been going for the city every year, so I think it was successful. You will be getting a survey, just the 4 of you, from our strategic planning consultant, probably in the next week to 10 days. I'd say more like the next week. What it's going to do is it's going to list the goals that we set, you know, your complex, your long range, your short range, etc. And you need to prioritize them. And then they'll come back and we'll discuss it from there, so look for that. And then I'm hoping I will have a first blush review of next year's budget at the next meeting. So.
Did you see Dirk?
No, I did not go to see Durban. They had a pretty full, big group going, and I didn't feel quite, that's my personal opinion, that it would not be fruitful. We did talk to Duckworth, which actually went much better. Maybe because she's new, I don't know.
Durban's been pretty receptive for
He was actually one of the ones, I was told later, he was actually one of the ones that was surprised and was unaware of the pole attachment issue. So that's all I got.
Okay, do we have any non-agenda items or other business? Anybody? I have one, and that was just that they're gonna be putting up a sign soon on Plum Street, North Plum.
Yes, Fred told me today, Julie had been called out, so if you see the little flags or whatever.
Okay, that's what that's for.
That's what, yeah, so they know where to put the signs.
Yeah,
I think he's
they're all
gonna
over
do
the
that in the
place.
next couple of days.
I think that's all I have for section 4. Section 5 will be executive session.
Move to an executive session, 5LCS 102/2, C6, the setting of the price for sale of leased property owned by the public body.
Second it.
Kelly? McKinley?
Yes.
Testori?
Yes.
Coffee?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Y'all would please step up in open session.
Move to adjourn.
Second. Call it.
Testori?
Yes.
Coffee?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
McKinley? Motion carries.